here tonight. She had a death in the family. I should have did that at the beginning of the meeting, but I forgot to, so that's the reason Dr. O'Keefe is not with us tonight. So keep her and her family in your prayers, please. At this time, we'll do I declare the public hearing open to receive comments regarding the $200,000 forgivable loan related to an incubator number 6 construction project. Is anyone here to speak? If not, I declare the public meeting closed, and I'll go to item B is consider approving a $200,000. Mr. Britt made the motion, Mr. Trivett second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Good job.
Matters of interest to Commissioner. Anyone have anything?
I got one question.
Okay, Mr. Gooden.
Mr. Martin, this town received a sign at the industrial park. You ever get any answers?
No, I will, I sent an email, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I sure will. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bullock.
since he says about signs, I've been thinking about the signs on 701 for East Bladen High School. Is that something the county or state?
Well, that's state, and we, and Mr. Ken Clark is here. Our understanding is that we did receive a response, and Madam Clerk, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's something, Ken, do you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, our policy on school signs, directional signs in schools, if it is on a secondary road within a certain distance from the main road, we will sign to the school. But the East Bladen being on Highway 87, it's not meeting our policy to sign to it because it's already on the main highway. So we would not be able to put directional signs up for East Bladen or West Bladen.
Now, West Bladen is up on 41.
Right. East Bladen's on 87. Neither one of them have directional signs because they're both on major highways.
I mean, West has one on a sign on Highway 41, I believe.
If it does, we'll take it down.
Ooh.
It shouldn't be there.
I believe there's a sign on Highway 41 telling you how to get to West Bladen. I'm almost sure.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but I think
I'll
it
check
is.
and see.
Don't take it down.
If it is there, it's there against our policy if it is there, but I'll double check on it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, I have one. I would like the board to consider a resolution in supporting the name of a portion of NC 87 from Bladen Bluff, Lower Catfield River and Sewage Authority to NC 131 in memory of Lieutenant Ron P. Allen Jr. He was a firefighter. He grew up in Tar Heel. He was devoted and loving father, husband, and son. Ron was a member of the Tar Heel Baptist Church. Ron was dedicated to community service, serving 18 years as a certified firefighter, an officer of Tar Heel Fire Department, and a member of the board of directors. Ron was killed in the line of duty on September the 22nd, 2006, and was the first recorded fallen firefighter in Blaine County. I make a motion to that. A motion by Mr. Britt, second by Mr. Gooden. Efforts to memorialize Ron's life, love of community, and dedicated to community service. Friends of Ron's have completed a road naming and designated application to be submitted to the North Carolina Department of Transportation. So we sent the application to Mr. Drew Cox to look over it, and then we have the $2,000 check, or Greg has it, or Lisa might have it. Anyway, we got the check. It cost $2,000 to file this application, and we're in the process of getting letters of recommendations for this to attach with our resolution and attach with the application. Any discussion?
One thing, can you give me the location of the highway again? You said it would be there. What was it?
It's at Bladen Bluff. That's somewhere right there at the water department on the straw in the river on the right there past Smithfield.
Okay.
Back to 131, Tar Heel.
And Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, that was a donate, the check that you said we have is a donation.
Yeah, yeah. It comes from the community of Tar Heel.
That would be 87, would it be 87?
Be 87.
87. That's when the, okay. 87.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, thank you. Any other matters of interest to commissioners? Individuals delegation wish to address the commissioner, Mr.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bowen.
Mr. Bowles.
Appreciate you signing a committee to look at the people problem. But you put us out there with no money. To look with no money, need some money somewhere where you can talk to somebody and find out what they can do for us.
Mr. Bowles, we got a committee looking at that, looking at recommendations, and when the recommendation comes in, hopefully the money will follow.
The money will follow.
Within reason, yes, the money will follow.
Okay. Okay, but I mean, I didn't get that understanding.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to decide, the group's got to decide which direction we want to go and what's gonna cost before the county puts any money toward anything. As soon as we get some direction, we'll.
What I understand what you said in the meeting, that there won't be no money till 2020 through the salt and water.
I don't know who said that. Your group needs to decide which direction you want us, the county needs to go in, and then this board of commissioners decide how much money we're gonna do and when it will take effect.
Mr. Chairman, are we asking him to bring back something like a budget or anything?
No, we're asking the committee to bring recommendations back.
Including money?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's got to include money.
Yeah.
We gotta make sure that what we designed it to go to deal with the Beagle Bounty program, is that the one we?
No, sir, we named that group to look at the beavers' problems and to decide what direction this county needs to take. And the bounty problem was one of the options. Mr. Brett?
You're on that board, aren't you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, but, you know, we met the other day, they said there wasn't to be no money till 2020 through salt and water. He wouldn't have no money.
Mr. Martin?
I just want, just for clarification, that may be referring to the beginning of the 2020 fiscal year, which is July 1st. We're considering that in our planning process for the upcoming year budget, which again begins July 1st.
Okay.
You have had in mind.
Okay.
You just bring us some directions and
Okay.
something we can buy into, Mr. Bowles.
Huh? Do what?
To bring something.
You bring something we can afford, please.
Something they can afford.
Thank you
Oh,
for
you
coming,
can
Mr. Bowles.
afford anything.
Thank you, sir, thank you for coming. Item 7, finance, Ms. Lisa.
I will review the dashboard for the month ending March 2019. The general fund revenues have collected 68.89%, and we spent 62.35%. Solid waste was 87.06% and spent 81.18. Emergency telephone was at 42.38% and spent 48.03. And water was at 76.36 in revenue and 43.04 in expenditure. Have any questions about the dashboard? Okay. And now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Brian to do the audit presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight. Special thanks to Lisa and her staff, Greg and everyone that I dealt with during our audit. It was always a pleasure, and they were always very helpful in forthcoming with the information that we requested. Apologize again for being April 15th to present last year's audit, but hurricane and all kinds of things tend to slow you down. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here. You do have a copy of the bound audit that has been approved by the Blood River Commission. You also have the handout. I'm going to kind of flow through that fairly quickly. Please don't hesitate to stop me, and we'll go a little bit further in detail anytime you'd like to. But if you would open it up, and we'll start on page 1. This begins our required auditor communications back to you, those in charge of governance. Our main objective is to express an opinion. We did. It's an unmodified opinion, which means that the highest opinion we can render such engagement, there was nothing that would require any modification to the financial statements. We also are planning to form the audit prepared to actually get to reasonable assurance. That means we can't look at every transaction, so we can't give you complete and absolute assurance. We're only reasonably providing this opinion. Also, Our audit procedures are based on risk assessments. We evaluate your accounting policies, accounting estimates, and we present those in the overall financial statement presentation. We communicate any issues during our engagement to management, and then at the end of that, we come to y'all. We accumulate any known and likely misstatements and identify them to management, and then make a decision whether or not to adjust your financial statements. And then we stop our engagement, and a lot of that detail is presented to you in the engagement letter that's done way back when we signed the audit contract. Page 2, significant accounting policies. That's the accounting procedures that your finance office uses during the preparation of the financial statements as well as going through the day-to-day operations. A lot of that information can be found on page 22 of your bound audit report. We also look at transactions and the guidance and the authoritative guidance that is behind that. All that was good. There was no transactions or financial reporting that was beyond or out of the authoritative guidance. There was an adoption and change in accounting policy. Really doesn't affect the budgeting overall of the county, but it has to do with reporting the county's liability for the benefits that it provides to retirees, your retiree health insurance. That's a huge liability that we'll discuss in a little bit, but that's the only change in accounting policies. There were no significant accounting estimates. We looked at those which are management prepared. They were all very reasonable. Disclosures were neutral and consistent. Again, they start on page 22. We had no difficulties and we had no disagreements with your management. Looking on to page 3, as I mentioned, we go through and we come up with any adjustments that need to be made. None were out of the ordinary, and management did review and approved all of those before posting. Management signed representations. There was no outside consultants with other accountants, and there were no issues outside of the findings we'll discuss here momentarily. Speaking of that, page 4 is just a very detailed communication of your internal control issues that we're going to go into on page 5. Page 5 is a summary of auditor report where we did have material weakness. That has to do with Medicaid, and we'll discuss that in just a second. The other is a significant deficiency in internal control. That's an issue that we brought before y'all in years past, and we've had discussions, and really the cost benefit of that is not there. I don't want to make light of it, but at least in the finance office, do a lot of random audits throughout your outlying departments, and so you do have some procedures in place. The other issue with Medicaid, I know we've had discussion last year and the years past regarding the eligibility process. We did a little different way of doing things this year, and we still had some of the same issues. Some new ones have developed and some old ones have gotten resolved. Pages, you flip to page 7 and 8, they go into a little bit more detail what those are. Page 7 is really the segregation of duties. We'll put page 8. Goes into how many we tested. We tested 96 Medicaid files. Some of those we did have some issues with, and the detailed plan that is presented by the Department of Social Services is on page 10. Page 9 just does a lot of detail of the context and the conditions. There were no question calls. That is, there was nothing that created a liability that rose to that level. The response is that you're dealing with people in a very complicated program. I don't want to make light of the situation, but you're not alone. Medicaid, as I mentioned, is a very, very difficult program. You've got a lot of turnover there that can happen and affect this. You also have a state auditor that is looking into Medicaid because Medicaid is a lot of funding. A lot of people talking about how the Social Security system will be broken here with the Medicaid system, and that's direct funding. So that costs a lot of money. So they're looking at ways to trim it, and that's the reason that the state auditor is focusing on it a different way. So I don't have a lot of detail on the way that DSS is going to be putting in some training, but I think there's a presentation after I'm done that's going to be a little bit more detail on that. But I've met with Vicki, and we've gone into various discussions and ways of doing things. Greg and Lisa have also met with them, so it's something that's not being addressed. There's a lot of attention being paid to it. Any questions on any of that? That's all I have as far as required communications and any findings and deficiencies. The rest is a financial presentation that I won't hit on any. I won't stay on too much. I'm gonna kind of roll through it since you've had it for a week or two. So there again, stop me if you find something that we want to talk about. The The first tab is on page 11. That shows the general fund cash and cash equivalents each year. And the general fund, it has crept up a little bit, and it's right below $25 million. That's total cash, that's not restricted, that is your total cash. The next page shows the same cash, but for the business type funds. It stair-stepped up in 2017 and 2018, it did fall, but that was a purchase in your solid waste fund for a truck, a very expensive truck. Page 13, you can see general fund revenue for the past 5 years. Ad valorem has crept up a little bit. There was the biggest jump, and that was some ad valorem valuation changes. Other taxes, that's your local option sales tax, which has crept up, and Greg and Lisa have been telling me this year it's been kind of creeping down a little bit, so hopefully it will top out at the end of the year. Restricted, that's grant money that comes in. It's been stair-stepping down the past few years as the state is starting to take control over certain programs. One of that would be child care, Medicaid transportation, I think is starting to move out of the control of the county. It's being directly paid by the state. So that revenue, that the flow-through revenue is dropping, as well as the expenditures. Permits and fees, kind of small. Sales and services hasn't been a change, and investment earnings start to creep back up. You can see a little bit of that color there on 2018. And miscellaneous, that big year was last year when you sold the home health. Expenditures, general government, a big jump this year. That was the ledge settlement. Public safety, that increases. I think there were some new positions that were added. Environment protection, very small. It jumped as well, no changes. Human services, as I mentioned, the revenue, that's dropped this year. The education, that jumped, if I'm correct, that was some SROs that were being funded through the county. Culture, recreation, no changes. In debt service, it's been creeping down as the debt service is being decreased. Page 15 just shows general fund analysis. You can see how the operating revenue, this is everything we're doing to transfer to other departments or other funds. They have been exceeding operating expenditures. And as I mentioned, it dropped as those flow-through revenues have no longer been accounted for in the county's financial records. Pages 16 and 17 deal with your fund balance. Your total fund balance is a little over $25 million. The restricted is right at $5 million. Your state or your fund balance percentage is right at 35%, which is kind of neck and neck with the state average for counties of your population size. So you're doing well with maintaining the fund balance that the local commission would like you to maintain. The next 4 slides really just show you the pie chart of your total revenues broken down by ad valorem taxes and other taxes. Same thing for 17. Looking over to 2021, you see how your expenditures are broken out of the allocation to your total budget. Now 22 and 23 deal with your water fund revenues. You can see there's been a slight increase in your operations, and they kind of leveled off from 17 to 18. Water waste disposal and waste collection. You see how it has been affected over the past few years, so dipping down a little bit. And 24 and 25, you can get the analysis of your water revenues over expenditures. Your operating revenues have been exceeding your operating expenditures for those years, with the exception of the solid waste. And as I mentioned, there was a truck purchased in that year. And also, the water and the solid waste is reflecting the expenditures that we had to book on an annual basis for what the actuarials think you spend in retiree health insurance. The last of my presentation is your property tax collection rate. You can see the state average is 97.5%. The county's rate is 95.5%, so a little bit below state average, but your tax department's working hard and diligently doing anything they can to collect taxes. So any support that y'all can give them is much appreciated. And you can see that the valuation did creep up to 2.8 million. So any questions on any of that information?
Anyone have any questions?
I got one question, Mr. Scott. We getting into the budget process right now. We're going to start into a new calendar year. Something I don't know whether you will be the person I need to ask. Could you direct the commission?
We'll find out, yes, sir.
When we look at funding, sometimes I be trying to figure out how funding is allocated, what's else to be allocated, different funds, where they move around and how you place them and things like that. Do you have any resources that could make that available to us, is how you allocate funds and where you allocate them, that type of thing?
Well, the board, if there is a certain purpose for revenue, a fund is created. A good example would be a grant that you would receive for the lock and dam. That fund was created at the discretion of the board, or the decision of the board that says we want to consolidate all this revenue into one fund, and that way we can match all of the expenses. Other examples of that would be that don't require separate accounting and creating a fund would be, we're gonna designate part of our fund balance to this expense. And y'all have done that. Y'all have collected revenue throughout the year, then if that revenue is not spent, it has to be assigned for that future expenses. So it's done by the board and management, and we're just reviewing it and making sure it's accounted for correctly and designated accordingly. So I don't know if that answered your question, but Lisa and Greg and I can certainly sit down with you and try to figure out exactly what that is. But if the allocation is based on a decision either the board has made or a grantor has said, here's money, y'all spend it at the end of the year, at the end of June 30th. If it's not spent, then we set it aside in the fund balance. So that money is not spent until the next year when the new budget rolls around.
Any other questions? Greg, I know we don't approve this, but do we receive it by vote?
Yes, sir, that would be.
Okay, I need a motion to receive it. Mr. Britt, second from Ms. Trivia, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Ms. Burns. Department of Social Service, Vicki Smith.
Good evening. Coming in after Mr. Scott has reviewed the county audit, I'm here with Lisa Nance, our income maintenance program administrator, to share with you from that 2017-18 audit. We did develop a program improvement plan, action plan that we have put in place at the department to overcome these deficiencies. And I'll go through that with you. With our action plan, we will focus on our new hires, those that are coming into the agency. They're hired within the past 12 months. We will review all of their applications and all of their recertifications prior to the case being processed in the NC-FAST system. So once it goes into NC-FAST and it's approved, there's not much we can do about that case. So with that, because the new hires, they are learning the process, we will be able to catch those errors before they're actually approved. That's going to be completed by the lead worker and the supervisor. For the employees that are what we consider seasoned, which is over a year of employment with the county, we actually had completed a couple of years ago a checklist, an eligibility checklist, that before they completed their case or keyed it to be approved in NC-FAST, they had to go through this checklist and check off everything that they did. We are continuing to do that with each recertification and the application to verify that the work is completed. That's, the caseworker is responsible for completing that eligibility checklist. When they do that, they put that in the supervisor's box. Then the supervisor and the lead worker, they do a random check of those checklists to assure that the work is completed correctly. We also have put in place a random audit, which is basically reviewing 3 reviews and 3 applications of each worker. So there are 6 cases per worker that is pulled to determine if there are any inaccuracies in their cases. If there are any inaccuracies found, they are returned to the worker to make those corrections. And then the supervisor, they determine if there is further training that is needed. When there are deficiencies, The supervisor is pointing out those deficiencies and giving them mini training. It's just not as in-depth as the training that could come later. That is what we have put in place. We feel that with this, we're gonna, make an improvement with our next audit that we have. We have already, submitted information to DHHS and to local government as well.
Ms. Smith, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but help me understand, if you got a checklist, how we have employees that can't follow that checklist. Help me understand how they can't follow our checklist, if you can.
I will say, people can check off a checklist that they've completed it, and that actually the work hasn't been completed.
That wasn't answer what I was looking for.
I
I mean, if you got a checklist, I got something to do, and I got a checklist, and I do that and I check it off. I mean, I don't know how I need to even ask this. I just don't understand that. I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, but I don't understand it.
think it goes back to the quality of the workers. It's a work ethics issue.
With this specific workforce, how many people we involved in this particular workforce? What are you talking, 10, 15, 30, 40, 5, 10?
For this one area, because the area where we're having problems with is in the adult Medicaid unit. We have 3 workers that are the INC3s. That means that they are doing the approvals for, nursing home placement. And then the others, there are 6. They are doing just the, recertifications and applications for just regular adult Medicaid.
So you're talking about 9 people being supervised?
Yes, sir.
And how's that structure in place? Is this one supervisor? Or?
We have the one supervisor and a lead worker.
So you have 2 people supervising 9 people?
Correct.
Mr. Bullock.
When did your review start under this procedure?
With this action plan, we did have, the program improvement plan, and with these letters, hold on just a second, make sure I give you the correct date.
We used to call it PIP.
Right,
Yeah.
right, program improvement plan.
Yeah.
We had one that we started March 22nd of 2018. And when we came through the 17-18 audit, when we came into the next audit, like Brian said, there were still some issues. Some things had gotten better, and then there were other areas, new areas that had issues.
That was my next question. What impact have you seen on your reviews as far as meeting the state guidelines? Has it been a positive improvement?
Right, but from the one from the March 2018.
And I think the accountant mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
But you had new deficiencies.
Right.
Right.
Now, you mentioned something about random cases. How are they chosen? Are they chosen by the computer or?
No, actually, we take a list of the cases and we cut strips and we put it in a hat and we draw.
Okay.
That's what we're currently
Mr.
doing.
Cogdell? No, Mr. Bree, I'm sorry, he asked first.
Is there NCFAS representative, do we have one in the area right now assisting or helping?
No, not for, particularly in Bladen County.
The reason I was asking, because one come in my place of business today and he said he's gonna be around here for about a month, so I didn't know if he was helping or not.
We haven't had contact.
I just thought I'd ask and share that with you.
Mr. Cogdell?
When we're talking about approximately 11 people, how many cases are we talking about total? How many cases do you have?
With both, long-term care, 36,
How
about
many?
3,600 cases.
3,600 cases.
In what time frame?
In a year.
In a year?
That's in a year. So you break it out like in a
Well,
month?
that's 30 a month. 11 people getting 30 a month. That's 3 a month.
3 a month.
You said 3,600?
3,600.
That's, yeah,
That's like
Five times
monthly,
300.
350.
You got 9 people doing it. No, well, only now that, is this something that you do, like, when you say 3,600, what's like a monthly rate, is it 3,000, 300?
No, it would be,
What are you talking
no,
Approximately, probably anywhere from 40 to 50 cases are reviewed each month per worker.
per worker? So that's 40 times.
Because your recertification might fall at different months. For the cases.
We got 2 people that's supposed to be supervising, and making sure that all this work is in compliance. Is that the position where you was talking about you need another compliance person to come in?
we wanted one that is solely devoted, because the lead worker and the supervisor, they have other duties.
So that'll be 3 people then doing compliance.
One that would be full-time, that's all that they would do.
Does the cost of this service justify that type of personnel?
The way we look at it, there's no way that 3,600 cases can be touched fully. We're looking at a way that more cases are touched.
But what I'm asking the question is, so if someone is not accurately performing at this point in time, it seems that everybody's overwhelmed to what you're saying, because you can't check them. You're looking for additional staff, so it makes me feel like everybody's
She's looking for an auditor,
Right.
not a staff.
But it
I mean,
seems
not
like
a working
everybody-
person.
But it looks like everybody's overwhelmed. Are you looking for more people to have, to make sure you're not making mistakes?
You know, I go back to where I was at the beginning questions, and I don't mean it's no reflection on no county employee, no one else. You ought not to need all these audit processes and not spending all this money. If you got a checklist, then people need to be following the checklist. That's what we need to be working on, not hiring people to audit their efficiency.
And I will say this too, Mr. Chairman, that there has been turnover in that unit of those 6 IMC2s that are just doing your regular Medicaid. 4 of those are new workers. So they're.
That's even,
What's the
the
reason
training
why?
should be easy. You give them a check sheet, if you got new employees, they follow the check sheet. We
Right.
don't need, or not do all this auditing.
But keep in mind also, this is from 17-18
Why is the turnover so high?
because of work performance.
So that's what's keeping everybody, so you're losing an employee because of work performance.
With what we have put in place with the new hires, that every case that they touch will be looked at, that is strengthening their training and their work performance.
So you got that division is actually in need of improvement and a whole lot of things being done.
Correct.
So you're saying these employees are leaving the county?
Some have made decisions to leave and some have been helped to leave.
Because of the work.
Because
The
of the
land
work.
out there.
Mr. Bullock?
Ms. Smith, these are cases that you're reviewing that are recertification. What about, is that a problem with your new cases that are coming in?
The applications,
Well, you're doing recertification review.
right.
What about the initial
We're
application?
doing both.
Same
Yes.
group of cases?
Yes, yes. There will be a review, your new hires, as they're coming in, every case, whether it be an application or recertification, those are 100% reviewed on those new workers.
Now, when
And
you,
then the others are the random.
when you get a new employee, what kind of training do they go through? How long is their training period before they actually get out there and start working?
A year.
They in training for a year? God, they should be ready then.
Mr. Cogdell?
That's what we are hoping with this new hire, review.
The thing, I'm getting back to trying to get a first answer this first about like Mr. Pete, and I'm kind of looking at we following the checklist and we're doing everything supposed to be systematically done. And you constantly got people leaving. Something must be missing somewhere if they can't follow a checklist. So
It's
my thing
support.
is, what do we need to do to correct that problem? That seems to be the problem.
It's
Either the
a work-
checklist isn't right or something's wrong.
It's a work ethic. It's about getting the right people in the right position.
Are we paying them enough money?
Compared to the surrounding counties, we are. People like to come to Bladen County because of the money that we pay.
Is this one, are you having, other people in other departments in different counties have the same problem you have?
Yes, yes.
So turning over people, that don't seem to be fixing the problem.
Mr. Bullock?
You're assigning mentors to these new employees?
The lead worker and supervisor work closely with them.
I mean, I used to take the best employee that worked with a new one, kind of help move them along, you know, that's like a buddy type system. And that seemed to help the new employee to kind of progress through the ranks by having a mentor. And then if they didn't perform after a certain period of time, then we always send them back to training. Take them completely off the floor and let them go through an actual formal training again. They're not making it, not cutting it. So they should go through a formal training session again and make sure they're following the checklist. Thank you.
My questions are the ones that the turnover, are they making it through that year of training? And then is it during the training period that they are leaving or being forced to leave, or is it after when they're out on?
The turnover that we've had, Ms. Tritta, has been the seasoned workers.
Season work.
The season was, okay. So, I mean, and these are not the lead or the supervisor.
We have had turnover with the supervisor as well. We've had 2 supervisors within the last year. We had 2 years. We had 1 supervisor that had been in the position 4 or 5 years, and she left the agency. And then another supervisor came in, and she was only with us 3 to 4 months. 4 months.
Did they retire or just went on another job?
Went to another agency yes. The supervisor, she went to another county in a worker position. And then the second supervisor that came in, she was a retired supervisor from that area. She didn't have any NC-FAS experience, and so she left. We do have a new supervisor in place. She's very knowledgeable of policy, and she's on target.
So based on that, then you should see an increase in your production and
Yes.
as far as error.
Would it be fair to say, even though it's a seasoned employee, that when you start checking into your audits and checking into your work, are you finding that it's complacency? So therefore, when you apply the pressure, then they elect to leave,
Yes.
and then so be it. I mean, you have to be willing to say, fine, and don't be scared to say, see you later. I mean, it's a business.
Right.
Mr. Cardell?
This was the last question.
You got that?
I'm listening that we said I'm making sure I understand, we said we were looking to hire another auditor, not a worker. My question is, if that many people is leaving, do we need to be hiring people at that level to cut the workload back on some of the guys so they won't leave, or do we need to hire auditors? Which one do we need?
I don't think it is the casework.
So all
I
this
don't
is
think
fix
that they're
all this.
bombarded with that. They can obtain their caseloads where they're at
The
right now.
auditor is gonna fix all that. That's what I'm asking.
We would like to be able to see more cases than what we're seeing now. Because when you've got 3,600 cases, there's just no way that 2 people can touch 3,600 cases with their duties that they have as a supervisor. And the lead worker, they train as well. They're training workers as well.
Anyone else? You know, I don't know if you wanna see all 3,600 of them. You find more deficiencies potentially. But we're not gonna solve it here, but my closing comment is, I think the hiring process needs to be looked at and changed. If it takes a higher degree individual, then that's what we need to be doing. We don't need to be hiring people and working for a year and firing them or letting them go, or running people to other counties. Alters might be the answer, but I don't think alters the answer. I think it's in the work worker or the work, if you got a checklist, I just don't understand how there's deficiency. I mean, everybody messes up, but it shouldn't be.
Yes, ma'am.
And good luck, and thank you.
I will say
Yeah,
that
I'm
our.
releasing that.
I just want to share a little bit
Go
more.
ahead.
Just, someone mentioned the hiring process, and we have added to our hiring process, the interview, a small test. There's 3 sections to the test to just try to see. Also too, Mr. Chair, when we're advertising and the applications we get in, we're not getting degreed people for
That
these
don't,
positions.
that don't mean you hire the people that you re-advertise.
And
You
we
can handle
have.
it, you can handle it.
Okay.
I got confidence.
We will get there, I know we will.
Are you rating your application before you interview the individual?
Okay.
Say that one more
Are
time.
you rating the applicant? They send in an application, are they
Yes.
being rated before
Yes,
you?
yes, we qualify.
Okay.
We qualify.
All right.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Good luck.
Thank you.
Ms. Terry Duncan, Health and Human Services.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I ask for your approval today of the 2019 East Coast Migrant Head Start contract. It will allow the Bladen County Health Department to assist with assessments of our newly enrolled children for the appropriate preventive and primary health care to include immunizations, physicals, dental, and mental health.
Motion by Mr. Cogdell, second by Mr. Britt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Item 10 is Mr. Kenneth L. Clark, DOT.
Thank you. It's come before you tonight to request a road addition, Hillcrest Drive in the Owen Cape Owen Manor subdivision. It meets our qualifications because it's a pre-1975 subdivision, therefore we can add it as a dirt road. It does have a limited number of homes. If we add this piece, this will complete all of Hillcrest Drive. So what we're asking for tonight is a resolution, basically, is existing public right of way, asking you to turn that public right of way over to DOT so we can begin maintenance of the road.
Motion by Ms. Trivett, second by Mr. Britt. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Kenneth.
All right, thank you.
Take care. Good seeing you again.
Yes, sir, likewise.
Mr. Clark,
Mhm.
the Burger King entrance on Peanut Road, it's real rough there.
It is.
It's a mess.
I mean, real rough.
We're gonna try to do something with it. It gets a little particular because we're not responsible for the maintaining commercial driveways. But the part that is out in the road, we think we can do some milling right there and make it better. We're not make it perfect to the road resurface.
Okay.
But we're gonna try to make it a little bit better right there.
And on further down that road, at the, I say the Campbells, they put a pipe across the road or something. It's real rough going south. North is pretty good, Peanut Road.
The cross line, the recent cross line there?
Yes,
Okay.
it's pretty rough.
All right, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff's Office, Mr. Jim Bicker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm here tonight to request a position. The Board of Education has received a grant in the amount of $100,000 for new SR Road. And it would be from now through June the 30th, and then from July the 1st to June the 30th of next year.
From now, my question is, Ms. Penny, y'all come on up, y'all to. I have a couple of questions, please. I see, if this is correct, it was signed in July 11, 2018. Why are we waiting now?
Somewhere
It's
along the
okay.
line, okay. The grant was approved back in the summer, and we received notification of the grant in August. It's not a real formal notification process. We got it through email just saying that we had been awarded the grant. we had the hurricane, and then there has been some communication, and, you know, somewhere along the line, it just kind of got, lost, I guess. And we have been in contact with the sheriff's department for a few months now, and,
So, I'm just trying to understand, I ain't trying to put you on the spot. So, you got $100,000 for last year,
for this current year.
for the school year we're in now.
Mhm.
So what are you gonna do with that $100,000?
What doesn't get spent by the end of June 30th reverts back to the state, and we get, we are to be approved automatically, for another $100,000 for 1920.
So, can that money be used to purchase cars?
No, the only thing it can be used for is towards the SRO's, salary, for ammunition, and for staff development.
So you have to turn the rest of it in, if you don't use it.
You got $100,000.
So who's gonna buy him a car?
If you all approve the position, y'all will have to furnish it.
Mr. Cogdell, you got Mr. Britt, he's thinking.
My question, who was it, you?
I think go ahead.
If you're ready, go ahead.
Now, listen, $100,000, I'm trying to get in my mind, what's the cost of a SRO? Do we pay $100,000 for it?
No.
What's the
What
cost,
we're-
Ms. Lisa?
51,000,
51,000 plus,
not including the car, not including.
That's the salary and the benefits.
salary and benefits, about 51.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking, I thought that was high too, that's what I was trying to figure out. Why was
It's
high
just
one?
enough, it's just, the cost of two is just more than the 100,000 that we have, and we also are supposed to, like I said, provide some, professional development.
And you couldn't provide that, sure?
We do provide that
But
property.
why can't we just do two and somebody kicking another $2,000 and let high two
Well,
research?
if
Oh.
the county commissioners wanna kick in, the
Sheriff got car, and you got some cars that we don't, I don't know, I'm just asking, I thought maybe we had a vehicle they could use, I don't know, I thought maybe we had a couple.
we have
of them.
$100,000, from the state is what we have been awarded.
They must come with a car, Sheriff? Is that something that's required? Do they have to come with a car?
Well, we have to have a car, to get them to where they go.
But we can't accommodate no kind of vehicle on, that's what I'm asking.
No, I didn't, I was asking what they're gonna do with extra money. I
I'm
didn't know they had to
just
turn it back
asking
in.
Sheriff while he's sitting there, do we have those type of accommodations we can provide if it need be, if we
Yes.
had to?
Yes.
My thing would be just add $2 more thousand, how two?
Do my,
I'm just saying.
Mr. Britt,
my suggestion, if the state's awarding us $100,000 to spend it, I would think we could get some rewording on that, as long as we don't spend over the 100. I would think they should go back and, they're giving us the 100. Shouldn't make any difference to them if it's pertaining to that officer. He's to have,
Or-
right, but to have bullets, ammunition, clothing, and he's got to have a vehicle to perform his duties.
That is, I don't believe that is the
But I
intent
think
of the
it's
General
worth, I think it's
Assembly.
worth looking into to see if the wording may be not correct. And as long as we don't extend that 100, meaning you, then I think it should be permissible to supply the vehicle.
I can certainly check on that, but the grant was written specifically for an SRO salary, staff development, and ammunition.
Did it
But
say,
I-
did it say?
Don't
what?
apply for that job, if, let's get it up close to that 100 figure.
They,
You know,
I'm
just,
saying. But it said we only can hire one.
Is it just
Well, Ms.
one,
Sharon.
Dan? Was there one? One that was written into the grant for this year.
will the sheriff be the, administrative supervision?
Yeah, it would be just like it is now,
So
where
he
they
could
pay.
He could get paid for that plus the deputy. Is this not what it says? It says the program agrees to the below listed activities that said provide administrative supervision. Would that be the sheriff's office?
Yes.
So that would be money that the sheriff could charge to offset his uniforms and stuff.
That wasn't my
Okay.
understanding, but,
Okay, we just check on it,
Okay.
so, you know, if it's a grant, it's just, we just hire, if the board votes, it's just for this time
Right,
frame, and when
right,
time runs out, the
because-
grant don't runs out, they're unemployed.
right now, the, General Assembly has appropriated only funding for this current year
Okay.
and next year.
So the motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Cogdell, second by Mr. Gooden. Any discussion? So please follow up with Greg on some of those questions, please.
I will.
All in favor say aye. All opposed? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I got a question for the sheriff.
We got to put things on the agenda. We just can't ask questions like this. It's got to be under the commissioner's comment. We just
I
can't open
can
up
wait till
this.
the commission comment
Okay,
again.
we just can't open up this
I can
thing
wait till
for
the
every
end.
time you got a question unless you will put it on the agenda.
I can wait till the end.
Okay? I'm sorry, but I mean, that's just the way we have to operate.
I didn't want to hold him up.
Emergency service, Mr. Bradley Kinlaw.
Good evening. Come to you tonight asking you to consider approving the DRA rehabilitation project contract recommendation. And this is Ryan Cox with Holly Consulting. He is our new point of contact with Holly. And I'm gonna ask him to provide some details of what transpired today as it relates to this.
Good evening, thanks for having me tonight. WF Carr was the low bidder on 4 of the projects. Received a call this afternoon that Mr. Carr is having some health issues, underwent surgery last week, and doesn't feel that he could give these jobs the attention he needs, so he withdrew his bid. I should have that in writing. They were emailing me when I was driving here this evening. Our recommendation is to go with the next lowest bidder on each one of those. That would be for the, for the first one would be Holland Construction. Alta Street, that would be Holland Construction again. For Baltimore Road, Holland Construction. And then for Twisted Hickory, that would be from the ground up construction and development. We'll recommend that we rebid the Ash Street project as it came in over the budget of the grant. And then 387 Short Hills Drive, we'll recommend that we go with Holland Construction on that as well.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the problem with